August. It's officially October, which means we're kicking off our fun Halloween shows. This is your only place for a weekly geek field trip into the world of pop culture. I'm one of your hosts, Gavin Stone, joined by...
I'm Harley.
On our Halloween shirts.
I survive after the credits, but you'll never know it unless you get the DVD version. I'm Pocky D.
Woo! I'm Spooky Jeffy.
He's the box ghost.
Yes,
It's better than Bad Jeffy.
You're like the made-for-TV...
Or Blackout Jeffy.
Hey, Blackout Jeffy. You shut up about Blackout. Blackout Jeffy.
No, it's more like...
You're not allowed to let him have liquor.
I'm just gonna do this from now on. There we go. That's
You know, Jeffrey's like the made-for-TV horror movie that nobody wanted.
Like It?
Oh, Jeffrey is nowhere near as bad as the It made-for-TV movie.
No, maybe Storm of the Century.
This is my
Maybe
life.
Tommy Knockers.
Someone, please.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Anyways, we're going to kick
still
off
single.
this amazing show where we're going to be looking at monsters versus slashers as we've transitioned from monster movies to slasher films, how the culture we have has changed from the 50s to now. Where have all our monster movies gone? I'm sorry.
Actually,
here's monster movies.
Here's a better question. Where have the slasher movies gone?
Yeah, well, now it's like
Getting a
slasher
Leatherface.
ghosts.
So we're getting a Leatherface movie. And then Universal's doing all of the reboots for monsters.
Shh. We're not talking about those.
You mean the
horrible
ones that
movies.
every time they fail go, well, we didn't do that movie.
And so we're
Like
joined
the movie
today.
was crap.
Johnny Depp's going to be the Invisible Man.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's not going to be on screen. Most people will be happy.
It's just his voice.
Ha!
It's just his clothes.
Shots fired, Gavin.
No. Sadly, he's going to be wearing one of those Green Man suits because they still have to have him like pick up stuff. So
Then he has, I hope he has his fedora on.
Lord. Anyways,
And he paints on his
no,
mustache.
we're done talking about this.
Oh, dear.
So
But it's
Mark
so good.
Martinez from Mark the Beast is going to join us for that conversation, but let's go ahead and get this show started with our geek history book, which I picked this week because we're talking about evil things. I think this might be one of the most evil things ever created. So we'll be right back after this.
evil is his one and only name.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's geek history book, and as Halloween's coming, we thought, hey, let's find some offbeat horror things. So
Very offbeat.
my addition to this is the week that Winnie the Pooh was released.
Why are you afraid of Winnie the Pooh?
I'm not afraid of Winnie the Pooh, but if there was ever a bigger beast ever of characters out there, like he's the god, like you could just see him sitting behind his poo table with his poo cup of honey going, you did me a great dishonor today. Like he is the freaking godfather of freaking literary
That's
characters here.
Rabbit.
No.
And you know how Winnie the Pooh would kill his victims? He would put
bees?
a jar of honey on them and just let them suffocate as the honey just melts through.
You thought about this way too much.
She did.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Whereas it was the rabbit, you just shove carrots down their throat until they can't eat anymore. They just burst open and
I
such
really
like
think
that.
the Godfather
Or
would be more Rabbit.
if it's Eeyore, you just pin a whole bunch of tails to them until they keep bleeding all the way through.
in the butt.
Okay.
And if it's Tigger, when they're just jumping on them over and over and over,
what's
stomping their
stopping
heads
them?
in.
You
really
yeah.
thought about how to kill people.
This
and
is proof positive that Winnie the Pooh is one of the most evil creations ever because it has taken over
That's
everything.
Elmo.
Actually, really.
Elmo is a close second, but Winnie the Pooh was first because he's taken over properties, he's taken over kids' bedrooms, he's taken over most of Disney products. Winnie the Pooh is everywhere. And it's not always a good thing. I like classic Pooh. I like Disney Pooh enough, but not after the original movie. But that was it. I as much as I like Winnie the Pooh, sorry,
I like the
just
Heffalumps
can't.
and Woozles movie.
So
No, see, this is proof positive Winnie the Pooh's evil influence on culture. Harley, who normally has good taste, likes the Pooh Heffalump movie.
I thought it was cute. He was really cute.
I do have to point out that Winnie the Pooh was made by a young child to help his father, who just got back from World War I, suffering PTSD, help him get through it by telling him the magical stories of Winnie the Pooh.
And his dad actually took his ideas and made them in a book and became rich because they're making a movie about this.
It was a deal with the devil.
Apparently, Gavin went a little bit more of the demonic side. I just did more
You know
research
what?
and realized,
How about
totally
this?
If it was a
Okay,
godfather.
Hold on.
So for once,
Harley.
Okay.
I can agree that Winnie the Pooh does have its dark tendencies because if you look at it from a psychology standpoint, all of the characters represent some kind of mental illness.
Did anyone else think that Christopher Robin was a little crazy?
He's schizophrenia.
Thank you. That's what I thought it was.
He also,
There's an eating disorder. Rabbit is OCD.
So apparently Winnie the
Eeyore's
Pooh was
depression.
7 before 7 was.
Eeyore's low. So
Yeah, Eeyore's depression.
That character always made me
Tigger's
sad. It was my
ADHD.
favorite character.
Yeah,
Love you,
and all this because a small child was trying to help his father. You know what? I want to bring this up to happiness. Also, this week in history, 1987. This is the 30th anniversary of The Princess Bride. One of us, everyone in this room, loves this movie.
This is still an evil conception here because everyone has seen this movie. It's on everyone's DVD shelves, and you think it's innocent enough, but you know a movie this popular that is in everyone's house has ulterior motives.
I don't own this movie. And I only watched it this year. Because all of my friends
See?
and Rocky ruined it for
So
me.
no, we've learned something. The true villain of this story is Harley.
Harley is the true villain of the story. How bizarre.
I love the movie, but it's that quote, as spoiler by the way, 3, 2, 1, as you wish actually means I love you. And
Yes.
because you find that out at the end, it's
Gee,
like, oh.
thanks for explaining that to me.
My
because
name
I'm
is
an idiot.
Inigo Montoya.
No,
You
there are
killed my
people who
father.
have not
Prepare
seen
to
this
die.
movie. And
And
like,
you just spoiled it for them.
well, I
Here, I'm
gave a
just
spoiler
spoiling it.
warning.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, I think
where that
these are
comes
two
to.
unholy concoctions, deals made with the devil for their popularity.
Yeah.
Both of them are in every single house.
Yeah.
Both of them have influenced pop culture and generations of families. Wicked evil.
But also, Princess
What
Bride
does it
was a box office bomb and didn't even make its budget back.
Exactly.
And it's still so popular.
Yeah.
Right.
Who at least made its budget.
Well, yeah, but look at the year it came out, 1987. How many awesome movies
I
came
can't
out
really
that year?
watch the movie anymore.
Yeah.
What movie?
The giant, he's dead.
Doesn't mean you can't watch a movie.
You can't.
And I don't like
Andre
the quote
Giant.
as you wish because, yeah, my ex and I used to say that all the time.
Well, that's
Always.
your own damn fault.
Jeffrey, that's okay.
Actually, he cheated on me.
Jeffrey, it's always, honey.
So now
Always.
we're going to move on to Geek versus Geek, where one of us will probably not get stabbed.
Hopefully.
You
Big
think.
Spooky.
Jeffrey, get in the closet.
Welcome to Geek vs. Geek, where we pit our own geeky host against one another to decide the outcome of our question of the week. On my right-hand side, we have...
I'm Pocky D, and this week I'm defending practical effects.
Ooh, spooky. And on my left-hand side, we have...
I'm Gavin, and I'm going to be taking on the virtual effects. I like virtual effects. This gore battle is going to be interesting.
It's effects all around, my friends.
Anyways, so we have Geek versus Geek, where we put two contestants against each other, and they have 1 minute intro, 1 minute defense, and a 1 minute exit.
And a 3-minute exit.
And a 3 minute exit.
The witch would have got that wrong.
Yes, she would have. So we're gonna go ahead and start with Pocky here. Pocky, you have exactly 1 minute.
You know what? Practical effects are one of the most masterful things in the world. No matter how old a movie gets, no matter what age it is, even by today's standards, watching a movie from the 30s all the way up to now, practical effects will hold up. It also causes many times the creative craft of the filmmakers to be creative with their movies and go forward. You know, it's easy to say, hey, we'll fix this in post, or hey, well, it's CGI. But actually taking the time and the effort to make a blood effect, or a monster effect, or having a creature effect is really important. As an example, Jurassic Park. This movie is old, it's fairly old by some people's standards, but guess what? It still holds up. The dinosaurs look awesome, and a lot of the effects still hold up. Why? Because most of it is practical. What little CGI there is used very sparingly. But at the end of the day, the T-Rex, the Velociraptors, and a lot of the other
10
monsters
seconds.
were real. And you can't beat real versus a computer-generated effect.
All right, that's a good intro right there. All right, and now we have Gavin, and go ahead and start.
I love when we're doing a gore battle, you bring up Jurassic Park like that was the goriest film, because the Brontosaurus was totally real, but it still looks really good, right? Everyone wants to crap on virtual effects, the digital effects that are created afterwards, but as much as we love practical effects, there's some things you can't do practically. If you have a vision for a movie or a scene and you have to try to do the practical effects, not only does it become down to a cost factor, there's also insurance mitigations. What happens if it doesn't go right, then you got to redo it all over again. That's a lot of time wasted, whereas in virtual effects, you get exactly what you envision to share with the audiences. How much better can it possibly get? You get right what you want, no mess ups, and if it's done right, you really can't tell. let's look at things like Cabin in the Woods and a lot of more modern horror films. Honestly, you can't tell the difference.
10 seconds.
I'm done. You can spare that 10 seconds, Witch.
So we got really good intros here. I do like both of your topics, and so far it's still a little tug of war here. So Pocky, let's go ahead and hear your battle. And go.
You know, it's true. You can get really lazy and do CGI and spend lots and lots of effort. Yes, it takes a lot of effort to make those CGI characters. But the problem is later on in life, when CGI gets better, you don't look any better. With most practical effects, things still continue to look good. As an example, recently in a movie, they had an entire room spinning. They had the actors on a lazy Susan in the middle of the thing. They built this entire giant room and it spun. And the sequence actually looks really, really good. In a fairly bad movie, this is actually one of the standout sequences. When you're also talking about practical effects with guns and gore, nothing looks better than seeing an actual zombie grab onto some human flesh and ripping it apart and grabbing guts and things and ripping them out, versus having to wait for a CGI guy while some guy goes thing and does this number. Yeah, you're going to be cheap and you're going to be lazy and you're going to have it really quick. But at the end of the day, nothing beats seeing a human being squish something between their fingers in real time.
Yeah, that's a pretty good defense there, Gavin. So go ahead and start.
Oh, it's funny you bring up zombies. Wanted to pull out their guts and stuff because nothing's really terrifying about a very human zombie. But let's look at the zombies from like Game of Thrones, which were mostly virtual effects. Those were terrifying. Those were actually good monster zombies that you can tell. The problem with practical effects is if it's not done right, just like virtual effects, the illusion is broken. I love the fact that you want to bring up, oh, well, they built these sets of things. Yeah, you can do that. But when virtual effects are done right, which is now getting to the point where they are, you don't notice. Let's take the last episode of Game of Thrones with the zombie and the thing. Yeah, there was a lot of green screen on the guy. That's good acting. That's a sign of someone who can pull this stuff off. It doesn't have to rely on, oh, well, I've got guts here. They have to rely on everything else, and at the end product, it is flawlessly beautiful.
Wow. So both of our hosts right now have really good intros, really good defenses on both your sides. But let's go ahead and get into the little last piece of this. Pocky?
My last defense of this is yes, you can have lots of CGI and you can make it look really, really good. But that also takes a lot of time. As we know with Game of Thrones, they actually had to have huge delays. They had to have characters filmed way ahead of time. For practical effects, many times you just have to put a vest on the guy, have the blood squibs ready to go, press the button, and have to tell the guy where to move. He will feel it, he'll actually react, and the clothing actually moves. Versus most times when you see a gunshot going off on a guy's shirt, the shirt doesn't even move in most cases. It's just like, oh, look at the blood. The shirt doesn't move, nothing looks right, because there's nothing actually going on. Physical effects, even with anything you get down to it, with Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, any of the other horror movies, Nightmare on Elm Street, some of the best stuff was practical effects being done at an incredible level that people were being taught how to do. And with all that taught and how filmmakers got creative. They make some of the best movies when they have to be creative with their environments versus having just to kind of rely on a computer that can do it for them.
Wow. All right. That's a good exit right there, Pocky. But I think Gavin is going to go ahead and get with the last words here.
That's right. Ready? Tell me when.
And go.
All right. I'm a fan of practical effects just as much as everybody else, but there's a limitation to what you can and can't do. Film is an art form. There is a director who is painting that canvas, and if you can't get what you need to get across with practical effects, then resort to a look and a good team to give you what you want that has a better impact. For instance, I'm gonna go with the Ninja Turtles. I love the original Turtles movie, but I like the CGI ones because when I grew up, that's how I thought Ninja Turtles should move. Things you can't do practical-wise, you can do VFX-wise. And yeah, you wanna bring up squibs, okay, there's a limit to what you can believe in when it's exploding outward instead of inward. So we talk about shirts moving, there's things you have to think about that in digital you can fix. You can do, and you can expand things out. Practical is very good, but if it calls for it, virtual effects are just as good when they are done right. I gave you extra 30 seconds, which you can say something now.
All right. Well, I gotta say, both of you have very good topics here. I mean, you know, I really do like how you can get into the crafting and everything else like that. But Gavin is correct. You know, it can get pretty expensive. But I do like being on the more of the hands-on and getting in there. And
The maker has a hands-on approach. Imagine that.
But you know, you got the virtual right here, where it's getting to the point where it looks like someone just went up and just did all the makeup, and you know, there's a lot of good fixer-uppers on that and so forth. I mean, take a look at Golem. I mean, when you're watching the movies, it looks real. So I'm gonna say, you know, I'm a huge crafter, which I really enjoy, but I definitely enjoy the virtual realities and everything else like this that you can get into. It's very hard for me to go ahead and choose. So tonight's winner, I'm sorry, Pocky, but I'm gonna go with virtual reality.
What? How did the maker pick virtual over practical?
Virtual,
You had this one in the bag.
I know, because nobody
did.
likes CGI.
But you know what? I really do like how where CGI is going. It's helping a lot of crafters now, making it to where they actually want it to look like. Because when you're crafting, you're making it look all good and such like that. There's a lot of stuff that
Oh, this already looks good.
there's a lot of times for the makeup, just you can't get what you want.
Exactly.
You can't
Hold
get
on.
the feel.
Hey, Harley, practical lost.
She's this. Yes,
Well,
we win
folks.
virtual simply because you're at the end of the day, it is a canvas. The artist needs to make what they need.
Can I have my
Exactly.
drink?
But
Harley's going to be mad.
no, think of this. At the same time, guys, it really does help a whole lot when you can actually fix a lot of things on virtual. And there's a lot of money that
She might
goes
have a
into
knife.
the crafting. Anyways, folks, we hope you enjoy our Geek vs. Geek.
This is a slasher show. You know that,
If
right?
you want to say if I'm wrong or if I'm right, go to our website, fanboytv.com, and message
He's right.
us. And don't forget to always
He's
subscribe
wrong.
to our YouTube channel.
Have you seen
All right.
Stay tuned for our main topic.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show.
Ow.
It's going to be really hard for people to go up against me on Geek vs. Geek because I keep winning. Like, I keep it's not because they're afraid of me, right?
No, it's I just
No.
that was Mark has actually the best statement about that whole thing.
About what?
about the
Or
blood?
CGI versus
CGI
practical.
CGI versus practical.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I was gonna split the difference between the two of those and say that, you know, one side says practical, one side says CGI, and I said the best thing is a blending of the two to make something where a lot of times what we're seeing now in films is not one or the other. It's a blending of the two. When you see it really want to say, oh, that was great CGI or that was great practical. A lot of times it was a really masterful blending of both of them.
And
But
it's
if you
really
had to
nice.
pick one based on the argument, who would you have picked? Because that's
the
part of
argument?
Geek versus Geek. You have to pick one side or the other.
Oh Christ! I didn't listen to any of it.
What?
I didn't either.
Oh, anyways.
No one ever listens to
Welcome
us
to
talk,
Mark
Gavin.
Martinez, our guest today as we talk about Monster vs. Disaster. He has a show called Mark of the Beast. I've known Mark for a long time. I met him as part of the Austin Horror Society, and when it comes to horror movies, he knows his stuff. Like, I guess it's safe to say you and Logan know your stuff pretty well. That's why you do a show.
Yeah, I do. Logan is just
She's learning.
Logan's learning. She's learning. That's why
She's the audience of the group.
yeah,
audience.
that's the audience. Yeah.
So,
I make fun of the way I say it.
you know, as every year when October comes around, I start fiending for horror movies, and I
Yes.
love monster movies. I go back and I watch monster movies, and then I like slasher films. But I started thinking, there's been this weird transition from the 50s to today that was all monsters, then slasher monsters, then slashers. I don't even know what we have today. It's such a weird thing because it's like ghosts or fake slashers.
Ghosts that you can't actually kill.
Yeah, or like they're not really ghosts, they're living in the walls. Like,
Or ghosts that have these like powers that do not, you know, a lot of times when you watch a film, like just saw Annabelle.
yeah.
I love
The new
it.
Annabelle. Okay, but the new thing is like, there's not a set amount of powers that they have. It's like the powers of this ghost kind of.
They're
they-
oddly convenient.
Yeah, they're oddly convenient, depending on what the scene needs.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, wait, why is it doing this? Why is it controlling reality now? Why is it doing this?
Why-
And it seems like it just because
So
this
you're
scene
like
needs
me,
it.
where you overanalyze horror movies.
So no, my favorite is that Annabelle is more powerful in this movie, in the prequel, than she is like in the last, like when the
Well, the ghosts
Conjuring.
gave up by then. They're like, oh, I'm
Well,
stuck in this stall.
maybe she hit her peak early.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, so
It's,
I thought it'd be
bored
fun
of
today
that
to talk
house.
about the evolution of monsters to slashers because we don't get a lot of monster movies today. They're very far and few between. We get a lot of slasher ghost movies or thriller movies like that. But a long time ago, like in the 80s, that was prime monster time. You had ghoulies and critters and all those fun monster
Well, even
movies.
before that, I mean, there was
Yeah.
a lot of monsters. And,
There was.
So let's talk about the early years of monsters. Why do you think monsters were such the draw for horror in the early years? Was it just a different time, different culture?
well, a lot of the times it was, as it's probably been, said so many times, that it was a reflection of culture and politics around it at the time. A lot of the early, like 1950s monsters like Godzilla and all these giant creatures were kind of a reaction to the nuclear age, and which I just mispronounced there.
My brother
The nuclear-
loves those 50s giant creature movies like Them and They and like all those giant
Right.
He loves all like he lives for those. We don't get those today. They just don't make it. I don't know what is so wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's because it was such a political part and a cultural part that today we just don't give two craps.
And
It's like whatever.
And if you see, I don't know if y'all have had a chance to see it, but a film that harkens back to those is Shin Godzilla. It just came out. Okay, and if you think, I got to see that a year ago at a press screening, and after that, a lot of us were walking out saying that is, we all called it Kaiju West Wing, because it's very political, right? It's a political drama with just happens to have a kaiju in it.
Just happened.
And-
Totally.
I find that happens a lot, except for the found footage like Cloverfield, or I watched that movie The Monster where the mom and daughter are stranded in the middle of the road. I thought that one was actually a pretty decent monster movie.
I think it also is like when you go like Universal Monsters, like movies were still something new, something that people had to go to because they were events. So a lot of people were still reading. So when you talk about The Wolfman, you talk about Frankenstein, you talk about Dracula, those were books that most people had already read. So they were a guaranteed bank. So, but when you're moving into the nuclear, I don't know, whatever.
We're just going to start saying the atomic. How about
The atomic, yeah, the end of the atomic age. It's because nobody knew what that did. Like, you're blowing up make-believe villages in the Sands Desert. Like, nobody knew what like a radioactive bomb would do in the long run. So like, hey, it turns a lizard into a 50-story beast. It makes a man grow to the Colossus. It does weird stuff.
That's how you
Wait,
get those have eyes.
it doesn't do that?
I mean,
Yes, it does. That's how
well,
you
I
get
mean,
those
that's
have
how
eyes.
you
Only
get
in special occasions. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, or the
Atomic.
hills have ice. And so nobody.
I was feeling it there. It was kind of like lifting up a little bit. I'm like,
It was
oh.
all.
See,
It's a
kinda
it's
levitating
like the
now.
grudge. It's the grudge.
yeah.
So
But that was the thing. And then when you get into slasher, it's because in the 80s, people were starting to become afraid of their neighbors. That's when the Son of Sam, that's when you start having serial killers, you have the Zodiac Killer, you have all these things. So what does Hollywood do? You
Bank on it.
you bank on it. So what's the first slasher movie? It's Black Christmas. It's about a guy stalking a sorority house.
So what's the excuse for the day? Because we're not afraid of our neighbors. We just don't care anymore.
Correct.
But
So-
they've just been doing them for so long, this we like.
We're just like, okay, because are people just not afraid of monsters anymore? Do you think that's what it might be?
Well,
I think
because
that's what it is.
I think also part of it is because you can turn on the TV every day and see like a real life monster on there.
How sad is that to have to say
You know?
out loud?
I know, it's so sad.
We know what you're going for, Mark.
Sorry.
We have North Korea, like
Weird
about
Chino
Tanukas, yeah.
person.
But at the same time, I think what's the new thing? It's everything on a camera now. It's
Oh, I'm sick of the
paranormal.
found footage. I'm sick of the horror found footage films. I am done with found
Actually, though, there are some that are when it's done with creativity and it's done like I'll just plug a film right now. A friend of mine did a film that premiered last year at AFF called Found Footage 3D, and it's kind of a deconstruction of the found footage genre.
remember that one.
And it's really funny, and it's really smart, and it's really bloody. So
I like bloody films.
yeah, so you have to check it out. And that's what I said. You have to, if you're going to do found footage, you have to do it. It's really
You have to
hard
do it
now.
right.
It's
But it
really
seems
hard.
like everyone's doing that in horror because I love alien abduction movies, and so I look at it. Half of them are more than half are found footage movies, and the only one that's actually really good is Alien Abduction with the little kid and the thing falls out of space. That was pretty good. I like the new Blair Witch because I like the original
watch
Blair
it?
Witch.
watch the new
But
one?
there's something about found footage that I think they think scares people, but doesn't. Like you can't really see everything in focus, and people are like dying. I don't know why horror thinks that's another trope it has to fall to.
Oh, what was the one that came out, like, I think it was last year, Friends? About the Facebook?
Unfriended.
Unfriended. I was like, that was, There was moments that
Put your hand in the blender.
I know there was moments that were jumpy, and then I was like, okay, I'm waiting to see what's killing everybody, and then at the end, it was really bad, CGI ghost thing.
And that was another one that we were talking about where the powers of the spirit or what have you just kind of changed to fit the situation.
I can't open a door and
It's
see
kind of
one,
like
but
the
I can
new.
in two.
It's kind of like how they keep bringing on the Ring movies, and her powers change each movie, and it gets really obnoxious because as somebody that read the Ringu series and watched the Japanese versions, to have the American versions come in and do weird stuff, it makes no sense.
Well, I think the last we'll talk about found footage is one of the best examples of how it's done right is Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Mm-hmm. That one's done really right.
Which is also it's a deconstruction of the whole horror genre.
Wrong is pretty much anything else. I'm just going to put it that way.
I think as far as going back to slasher versus monster, I think the monster can come back. If you want a really good example of a monster movie that exists, and you kind of have to look at it as the monster, is Final Destination.
I love Final
Because
Destination
death is the
movies.
monster in that thing. It's Rube Goldberg death, apparently. Like, I have to go through all these things.
Elaborate mousetrap game deaths.
Yeah, but I mean, there's... As far as monsters, Chucky's back. They're doing another the curse.
But if you think about that, that's also...
a slasher.
Yeah, Chucky's a slasher.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, the slashers are coming back. But
Okay, so would Samora and Kadako be considered monsters or slashers?
I say they're monsters.
I think
because a slasher to me is a creature that Kadako kills you through magical means, like through the like we said, the hands coming out of my beard.
God, that's so frightening.
Right.
Out of the back of the hair.
I'm trying not to look at it.
Yeah.
So, it's okay. I'll save you.
Kadako and Stu, she comes out of the TV. And then
Samora comes out of the TV.
Samora comes out of the TV.
Kadako has
Out of your hair.
and she comes down the stairs.
Right.
Can you do that?
They're more
Can you actually do
To
it?
be able to.
Can you? But can you show us now? For the people who have not seen these films, can you do your own?
There's a table in the way.
Harley's like, I'll get down.
I was like, I'll do it. I used to do it all the time when we used to go to the premieres for those.
But I think it was slashers. Yeah, Chucky's back. You could say Death is a slasher. Those stupid Final Destination movies.
Well, from
Those
Harley's
movies are
perspective,
fantastic.
you do creepy cosplay almost for a living.
We have Pyramid Head. We have the Shining Twins.
Do you find it funner to do the monsters or the slashers? Like, what do you get the most reaction from?
I get the most reaction from monsters. When we went and saw the new Ring movie, we went. We looked like a little girl's tea party because it was funny because Jill and I are in our little blue dresses and we brought Zephyr and she was Samora and we all looked like we were sitting in the back of the movie theater where people are screaming and running around the movie theater screaming bloody murder. We're sitting back here giggling with teacups. So we had our own little scary girl tea party. But I mean, I have more fun doing monsters. I've got versions of Jason and Freddy, but there's only so much you can do with.
I agree with you on that fast.
Slashers.
Like, one of the reasons I prefer monsters over slashers is because there's a creativity behind the monsters and their designs. Even if it's a political or a cultural story, there's a lot of thought into what goes in that monster. Like, The Blob was an amazing feat just for its time.
Which is also one of the things where, bringing up The Blob, everybody a lot of times thinks about the old Steve McQueen The Blob.
I like the newer
Blob,
one.
the newer, yeah, because
newer
it's still
one.
like 30 years old.
Yeah, but
It's next year.
one where
yeah.
they're on the platform
Yeah,
and he grabs
and
him through
it
the
is.
bottom of the
And
barge.
and you know who wrote that? It's Frank Darabont.
Really?
Yeah.
a good
So
movie.
I enjoy that. So Harley, between monsters and slashers, who do you prefer?
I prefer monsters.
Why?
They actually scare me more. They're funner. Slashers, as long as you don't play this stupid white girl in a horror movie, you can get away. But I mean,
And true, except they make movies now like The Final Girl and other things.
yeah, they
where
make stupid stuff like that. But I mean, I prefer monsters because they're preternatural creatures that you've got to get away from,
Yeah.
and sometimes you can't. You can't outrun a werewolf, no matter how much you try.
You could.
You could, it'd be real hard.
You could crawl up a tree. Dogs can't climb trees.
Hey, Harley, It Follows.
Oh, that was a horrible movie.
That was an awesome movie. You shut your
It
face.
Follows was a horrible movie. The whole message is don't have sex. Come on now, who's going to follow that?
That's what all slashers movies taught you.
That's kind of the concept of slasher movies. Like they had those stupid commercials. I guess it was Progressive commercials for Halloween a couple years ago. Why are we hiding in the garage with the chainsaw? just get in the running car.
All right, Mark, between monsters and slashers, what do you prefer?
Okay, so I grew up watching slashers. Growing up as a kid in the 80s, that was slasher heaven, right? But secretly, I love the artistry and the creativity of creating a really amazing monster and what goes into it, like we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I was teasing y'all earlier. I was listening to the practical versus CGI, and like I said, when you blend the two together to create a really amazing monster, which is almost in everything that you see, unless you're looking at something pre-CGI, everything now it has some CGI to the practical, and when you can create a really amazing monster, whether it be in a straight horror film or in something like Pan's Labyrinth, or one
Guillermo
other,
Toro is God.
and another film that I'll just say right now, a good friend of mine, Chris, his film We Summoned a Demon just got announced to be in Telluride
Nice.
today, and that one's got a really great creature that y'all get to check out soon.
See, I love
And-
creature features.
And it's a demon. It's a practical demon, and so
Before we get to Pocky, I laugh because you say you grew up in the 80s on slashers. I grew up in the 80s on monster films. Like, we were totally different here on how we grew up in the 80s, because I remember all the slew of monster films, good and bad. Like, this year I'm going to buy Ghoulies because it's been my obsession all year. I'm going to buy Ghoulies because I remember I loved it, but I might hate it today. Who knows? But it's a fun monster film. Just like last year, my obsession was Pumpkinhead. I had to buy Pumpkinhead because I didn't own it. And that is an amazing design movie.
And I mean, I watched all of those, but for some reason, it was just more of the slashers were always on.
Was your slashers Freddy and Jason and Michael, or were they other ones like Slumber Party and stuff?
No. They were more of the mainstream things that would show, and so branched off of there to go watch the more obscure ones, and then also the monster stuff. Because, like I said, I grew up also watching all the Godzilla movies, the kaiju movies, and all that. Yeah, and so I watched it, but it was as far as like horror, and I never really considered those horror. For some reason, I didn't.
You don't consider slashers horror?
No. The Godzilla films.
Oh, I
still don't consider
because
slasher movies horror.
It's too much of a people story.
Yeah, I considered more of those like. As a kid, like, okay, I'm going to be bored for this amount of time, and then they're finally going to come out and fight. You know?
Yeah, I always just fast forward to the end.
But as a kid, you can't really do that. You know, when you're watching those things. As
All
a
right,
kid, on
Pocky,
just regular TV.
Monsters versus slashers, what do you prefer?
USA Up All Night.
You've been thinking about that one.
Yes, I have. I honestly.
Were you a Gilbert guy or a Rhonda guy?
Rhonda.
Okay.
Because Rhonda always had all the trauma flicks and whatnot because she actually knew Lloyd. So, and Gilbert, the problem was like he always tried to do too weird highbrow humor. Like he'd do the inverted letterbox where it was on the up, going north to south and not east to west for like all of his skits. So it's like he kept.
That'd be so annoying.
It would. But I mean, I was Rhonda because she actually had fun with just doing weird stuff.
Can you do your best Rhonda right now?
Oh, it would be USA Up All Night.
There you go. The world is a better place now.
So it was, I honestly, I know this is going to sound totally cheating, but I love both of them
Yeah,
because.
pick one. We're not.
No, I'm picking both.
We're not playing this.
Yes, I am picking both because
game.
I love slasher movies as much as I love a horror or good monster movie because to me
The
they're the
monsters
same.
weren't in a good movie.
Yes, they were. It was cute.
It was,
Harley, you're the most frightening thing on the show today.
but I'm saying it's like to me I love both of them because I don't know, I can't say one or the other because to me I love both of them. I really can't decide because I've literally been sitting here this time going, well, slashers, but you really also love this, but you also love this, and it's like
There goes Pocky being our wish-washy judge.
I am wish-washy because I
You
love.
cannot be by horror.
Yeah, you can't.
Yes, I can.
If
Yes, I
Mark
can.
says it, you can't.
Look,
So I have a question. What was your first slasher movie?
Oh God, I don't remember. Probably one of the Freddy movies. Friday the 13th. I think it was part 2. I think that was my first slasher movie. I can remember.
That would be Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Really bad edit on KTVT out of Dallas, Texas. Sunday afternoon. Really horrible cuts in the middle of scenes, and y'all know KTVT out of
Yes.
Dallas.
Yes.
It was terrible, right? It was every
bad.
15 minutes, no matter what. If you were in the middle of a scene,
Middle of
commercial
the word,
drop.
they'd cut it off.
Commercial drop right there.
Yes.
And
That'd be terrible.
yeah, and the prints were terrible that they had, and it looked so you're really. I mean, it looked even grimier than Texas Chainsaw Massacre already looks. So that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre Sunday afternoon, KTVT out
I
of
have a
Dallas, the
secret
super ones.
confession I have to make about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I never watched it till after I watched House of a Thousand Corpses, and I loved
I
House
agree.
of a Thousand Corpses, and then I saw Texas Chainsaw
I
Massacre.
didn't
Like,
like.
this is the same movie.
I like.
No, I go back to House of a Thousand Corpses any day. I mean, as much as I love
I'm-
Leatherface, give me Captain Spaulding. any day.
I'll take.
I do like Kevin.
All right, Pocky, your turn.
Mine honestly was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it was mostly because the area I grew up in was supposedly the area that the farmhouse was at.
Yeah.
Don't you love those urban myths that pop up like, it was killed right over there?
Well, actually, in this case, because I live in Cedar Park, Leander area, so it's near Sewage Junction where they claimed it was, and obviously it wasn't. But
Oh, yeah.
that was one of those always because it's in the middle of nowhere town.
I'm sure somebody got killed around there though.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
probably drunk
Sewage
in the middle of the
Junction.
road.
Yeah, that's
Just
probably.
think of this: is somebody probably got killed around there.
Yeah, I'll take that any day. But
right,
yeah, no,
Harley?
Texas Chainsaw.
Mine was Sleepaway Camp.
Which one? One or two?
One.
One.
How about that ending?
She
I was
has
not
a what?
expecting that as a kid.
So, last question. We got to be quick. We're almost out of time. What is your favorite monster movie? Since we talk about slashers. So, Pocky, yours.
My favorite monster is Godzilla.
Okay. Mark.
Oh Christ! All right. Since this is kind of a monster, kind of not, and this could take it into a whole other section or direction. There, Alien.
Okay.
As much as I want to say Dracula, my favorite monster is Kabako.
I can see why. And I'm with you, Mark. Alien is my favorite monster movie because,
You only like the Alien Queen.
no, I like Alien 1 and Alien 2.
I have a question. Would the Predator then be a slasher
So, yeah, totally. He's got knives.
and explosives?
Total knives. So that's been our fun talk with Mark, looking at the history of monsters and slashers and how we evolved over time and what works, what doesn't work, and where the future is going to go. I'm guessing it's going to be more ghost stories and fake ghost stories like Housebound.
Ghosts,
Also-
ghosts are the only thing that's
I like
Yeah.
how he's trying not to laugh over there.
You can also
Just
watch him on Mark
terrifying.
of the Beast with Logan and find out other wonderful things about horror movies that are happening here in Texas and the wonderful premieres with them.
All right, so we'll be right back after this for this week's 10 Things list. Our favorite monsters and slashers with...
me.
And me.
We'll be right back.
So now we're back to our top 10 list. Me and Harley decided to delve deep into the world of horrible things. And we decided not to leave this one to Jeffrey because we didn't want to hear him scream.
Because he screams at everything we
Everything.
do.
Indeed, we cause him pain, and it makes us giggle.
He should just be
Hashtag
lucky
giggle
we didn't
Jeff.
bring Jill.
Indeed. So now it's time for our top 10, our favorite. She took slashers, and I took the monsters.
slashers.
And I took the monsters. Now, there are going to be some weird crossovers, and probably some of you are going to argue with us online that one of them is the other. You know what? Bring it. So,
right.
starting with our number 10.
Jigsaw. I love the Saw films. I actually know Darren Lynn Bosman, who was the director of the first three. He did Repo the Genetic Opera, and I actually love these movies.
See, my problem with them is like the first three
Are fantastic.
are
and then
fantastic.
You
They
change
just-
directors, and it went.
It would change directors, but also the problem was like it went to more and more like, can I have a bigger excuse just to murder people in the most violent way I can?
Yes.
Like you know, so we're talking about Final Destination. It's like death has to like drop a log that flips a table that does this, and then you get
It's
stabbed
like those
with a
weird
table.
puzzles where people like put all this stuff together, and it has to do like the falling effect. That takes frickin' forever.
See, and also Jigsaw is so high on this list due to the fact that both of the video games suck balls.
I did hate the video games.
Indeed.
Though I do like doing the escape room.
Yes. So our number 9. Sorry, I keep it. Is Jiang Shai. I think I'm saying that. Jiang Sai.
It's
Yes.
Jingsai.
Jiang Sai.
That's how you say
The
it.
hopping vampire or hopping zombie. They're generally females. They are in Japan,
Okay,
and
looks
they're
like a dude.
Dude, a lot of them are weird. Mostly a lot of Asian cultures have this one. They have a seal on their head. They bounce like this. Come on, bounce it.
There's like, there's actually, oh god, what anime is it that has the dude with the big seal on his head that does it too?
Oh God, yeah. There's so many of.
We're terrible. We can't remember, but I know what you're talking
There's
about.
there's also the fighting game that has the
Fighting
girl.
game with the guy with the big seal on his head.
Oh, the guy with the seal on head was Shaman Kings.
Yes, Shaman King.
Yeah, that was
a great show.
These are really popular out
Bring
through
back
all
Shaman
of.
King. Why did you cancel it?
Because the ending is really screwed up. It involves Jesus. So no, I'm not even kidding. But this is really predominant in Asia, like China, Korea, Japan.
Everybody's got one of these.
Everyone's got one of these, and the
Therefore,
funny
it's
thing
real.
is, yeah, because one of the things is, guys, a lot of these cultures don't like talking to each other, and yet they all have the same really weird, creepy monster.
It's
also,
real.
these things' heads sometimes will detach and fly like bats and eat you.
That's why we don't go to Japan and don't go to the bathroom in Japan.
Speaking of Japan, ours was made in it. Our next one is made in Japan.
Number 8, Chucky.
You know, that also would be kind of creepy that like Chucky has to wait like 6 to 8 weeks in a freight container just going, come on.
Come on.
Come on.
Come
Come on. Come on.
Can
Come
I
on.
get out, please? He picked a really, he picked the new CGI crappy Chucky.
Yes, he did.
I like the old Chucky.
So Chucky is those who don't know, is voiced by actually a wonderful, talented actor who also recently was in Lord of the Rings. He was the evil, the one who told the king that like the Fellowship was evil. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, he's cool.
Really? That's the same guy?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, weird. But yeah,
I
Chucky.
learn the things every day. The more you know.
The more you know. But yes, so yes, Chucky, awesome. I like him. But he's got the stupidest weakness.
I like Tiffany.
Tiffany's?
No, I like Tiffany.
Oh yeah, the Bride of Chucky. The Seed of Chucky, can we pretend that movie didn't happen?
No, I actually like that movie. That was
like-
actually the first Chucky movie I ever watched.
I actually watched the first one in theaters, and it was quite terrifying, and I didn't want it to wait anymore.
You watched Child's Play, not Chucky.
Yeah, I watched Child Play, but I mean, you know what I mean.
Yes.
I watched the first Chucky movie, because that's what everyone called him. They didn't even call him Child Play. They said it was a Chucky movie.
Yeah, it's Chucky.
My number 7. Speaking of things that are gross and disgusting, the Blob. And I love the 1980s Blob because the 1980 Blob is the best. Yes,
Is that the one
Steven-
that has the thing that comes up and like sucks them through the
the
deck while they're
great.
swimming?
There's that. Also, they grab the guy. The girl grabs the guy's
Yes.
hand and it rips off because it's now finally dissolved. The only thing I don't like about either of those movies is the dog.
Yeah, because
Yo,
you don't do that to dogs.
You don't do that to dog.
Why do
'Cause-
they always kill the dog?
Yeah, but the fact that it's germ warfare from America is the thing. Spoiler alert on a 30-year-old movie that you guys really should all be watching. I'm waiting for the sequel to this one because like 30 years later, where the priest finally breaks the glass.
Really?
Yeah, because think about it, he still has the glass.
Oh, he does.
He does have the baby jar. Yes. So number 6. Speaking of sequels, we didn't want to ask for.
Leatherface! Which I'm not looking forward to this movie.
So yeah, they're making a sequel to this one, but let's not talk about crappy sequels. Let's talk about why Leatherface works. Leatherface works because, like, seriously, he's just frightening.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre are wonderful movies. I actually liked the second one.
Dennis Hopper was on drugs.
He was.
See,
Some serious drugs.
yeah, Dennis Hopper was on drugs when he made the second one. If you haven't seen the second one has dual chainsaw wielding maniacs.
It's Bill Moseley is one of them too.
Yeah, Bill Moseley's
I
one.
like his weird, like, let me scratch my head with this coat hanger, and it's a big metal plate.
Yeah.
I actually got to meet him too because he's fun to hang out with.
So seriously, watch this one because at the end, third act, it's Dennis Hopper and Leatherface going at it with chainsaws, and they're just attacking each other, and it's
beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's insane. Thank you, Canon, for making it. Sorry, you're gone.
Very sad.
So our next one is evil toys, evil dolls, and particularly
I'm okay
like
with that.
Asia has a lot of these things where the dolls come to life. Actually, every culture has an evil doll story. Chucky is an evil doll. Technically,
I
they're
mean,
always
we had Doll Graveyard
yeah.
a couple years ago.
Still
When
going.
I was a kid, there was Doll Graveyard, and that movie like freaked me the hell out.
What was it? Say No Evil, the
Yep.
one with the yeah. There's always been these. No matter what culture, no matter what age, everyone gets one of these. No matter what, Goosebumps, whatever. It's fine.
Everybody's got a creepy doll.
Everyone gets a creepy doll. Everyone gets a creepy toy. Hopefully, one of them comes with a drill on its head to kill evil. Our next one is our number 4, the Awesome Master.
Michael Myers.
Now, which one are we talking about? The original?
Yeah.
Okay.
As much as I love, Rob Zombie,
The second Rob Zombie was a Halloween movie. Was absolute trash. We all know
it
it.
really was.
It was horrible.
But I do
love
love
hurts.
Michael Myers. I think it's funny because it's always the girls are all like running as quick as they can, and he's just like, "What's up, man? What's
No,
up,
no.
bro? Why you running? I just wanted to give you back your wallet."
My favorite though is in H2O, because you know how silly and
Yes.
awful that movie is. I just love that Jamie Lee Curtis grabs the axe. He goes, "No, I'm done. I ran away from you for 20 years. I've got an axe. We're good. Let's go. I don't care anymore. You know what? We're done." So it's awesome. I think Michael Myers works. Speaking of working, number 3, the Cenobites. Now, some people will say this is also a slasher, but it's really more of a horror thing.
I would
They are
horror.
they're general horror. They are the embodiment of pleasure and pain. They are, depending on what movie, just really either screwed up concepts of what your inner heart wants, or just an excuse to have somebody full of pins.
I think that's just the excuse to have a pinhead.
Indeed. And there's a lot to it. If you read, what was the original book called?
I didn't read the book.
Yeah, there's one.
I watched the movies.
Read one of the books. The Cenobites aren't actually that evil. They're only evil when you summon them. I think the best moment in all those movies, though, is when the autistic girl, solves the puzzle.
Yes.
And they're like gonna get her, and Pinhead's like, whoa, she didn't call us. Somebody else did. They're just using her. They're evil, but they're not like
They're not like super evil.
Then-
They won't hurt innocent children.
right, because it's like she didn't summon them. She just solved your puzzle box until you get to the later ones, and then they'll just kill everybody. But watch the first 2. Take
That's
those.
because they then became a
Right.
crime
Yeah.
slasher. Number 2, Jason.
Most slamest slasher of them all.
I love Jason Voorhees. It's not just because I have sexy statues of him and Freddy Krueger. that are chicks.
Also, apparently sexy Jason is a thing.
Sexy Jason is a thing. And they're chicks. And
Yeah.
Jill and I actually cosplay sexy Freddy and Jason.
There you go.
It's terrible.
So Jason, I love how everyone's like, in the first movie, Jason killed so many people. Yeah, Jason killed so many people in the first movie, guys.
He got revenge.
Wait, yeah, it was his mom in the first movie. It was his mother, yeah.
Spoilers!
Yeah, it's a 40-year-old movie, shut up.
After a year, it's not a spoiler anymore.
Yeah, after almost 30 years, it's not a spoiler anymore. And my number 1 movie, my number 1 monster of all time, could also be a slasher. But this monster permeates, like, even conversations.
He's not a monster.
Well,
Actual Frankenstein. The
No,
person
Frankenstein's
was a
monster. Yeah, no, Frankenstein's monster is the greatest monster, because even in conversations, you know what that thing means, but you also can just like, what is that thing like? It's like a Frankenstein monster of a disaster or something. Frankenstein's monster is one of the greatest monsters of all time because of that. It's just, he's awesome. You could turn him into any culture you want. You could do anything and keep dividing out. And you know what? There's even a giant Frankenstein monster that like conquered Japan or something like that. That was weird. It's also in Power Rangers. Frankenstein has been in Power Rangers. That was awesome.
Frankenstein was in Power Rangers?
Yes. Frankenstein's monster technically was in Power Rangers. But you know what? We're done. We're going to close up the show thing real fast. We'll stay tuned and we'll talk to you guys here in a moment.
No, Harley, don't kill Jeffrey.
What? No. Wait.
Your pain will be
There's a
delicious.
fingernail
It's a
toenail
horror show.
on the floor. It's
What do we
so
expect?
fierce.
I bet it was Jeffrey.
Your pain will be delicious.
Let me go.
I bet it was Jeffrey.
Down.
All right. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in for this show. Thanks for Mark for being on the show.
Hey, Mark.
We've had a good time. We love doing Halloween shows. So
He
we have
grabbed a
more
meat
coming
cleaver
for
when he
you.
left.
All October, we're gonna have all sorts of fun with you guys.
He's going to wait for you in the parking lot.
Oh my God, you too. I swear to God, I cannot put sharp objects around them. Anyways, we'll be back next week. Don't forget, there's more Fanboy TV Block Party shows all night on Thursday nights. All of our fun shows like Ladies Fandom, Combat Creations, Behind the Costume, everything's up there. You guys
Including
can
new
watch it.
shows. Did you guys
Cannon
get to check it
fodder.
out?
Including new shows. Cannon Fire's a podcast.
Yeah, we have our podcast on our website.
We're talking about shows right now.
You can also find exclusive content on fanboytv.com.
Exactly. So we'll see you guys next week. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned and have fun. Catch us on fanboytv.com.
Happy Halloween.
So
Hold on. I gotta do this right.
Wait for it. Here he goes.
Greetings, students of each
Bear poking out. This is.
I need you to ask me, did I put my name in the Goblet of Fire?
Calmly.
Harley,
Very calmly.
did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
See, that's how it should have been done.
Yeah, it should have.
Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
Freaks out.
Put your name in the Goblet
Now for the movie version. Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
Yes, sir.
Maybe you need 200 or 300 feet of scroll. You know how much they charge by the inch? That stuff is not cheap. Blood of the virgins does not come cheap either. You have to make sure they're real virgins too. Not like artificial virgins who tell you they haven't done anything. But no, you have to get the real virgin blood. That's not cheap. Scroll magic is not cheap, kids.
Oh, Jeffrey, do you remember back then when you had them giant TVs that weighed like 500 pounds? Can you imagine being Lex Luthor carrying that out in the road going, oh, I'm going to melt your building?
What? No. Okay, no. What I do remember is when we only had like 4 or 5 channels.
See?
My brother and I holding the bunny ears, and there was no remote control.
Nope.
You had to get up,
You were the
lay
remote.
down, and do this, all the freaking things.
I
And
was the
sometimes you didn't even get the 5th channel. You only got 4 channels. The news, Fox,
And whatever channel you had your Sega
bullcrap,
hooked
and
up
more
to.
bullcrap.
So my number one, the worst thing. So fun fact, nobody knows what the hell this is except for 2 people other than myself in this building. Who knows what this is? And it is our number one thing, Sailor Moon and the 7 Dragon Balls. If I've said this and you're sparking back to the 90s and you're like, holy crap, why did you even remember this, you horrible human being? Thank you, I've done my job.
What's wrong with Sailor Moon and the Dragon Balls?
No. This is a movie, in the loosest sense of the word. You can only watch it on YouPorn, X-Hamster, and various other adult websites. This is what happens when you get all the really popular animes from the 90s, and you get really bad computer effects, and, well...
And this is why Pocky's on Stalker.com.
Stop it.
Don't be the little creep.
Oh, Jeffrey, do you remember back then when you had them giant TVs that weighed like 500 pounds? Can you imagine being Lex Luthor carrying that out in the road going, oh, I'm going to melt your building?
What? No. Okay, no. What I do remember is when we only had like 4 or 5 channels. My brother and I holding the bunny ears, and there was no remote control. You had to get up, lay down, and do this, all the freaking things. And sometimes you didn't even get the 5th channel. You only got 4 channels. The news, Fox, bullcrap, and more bullcrap.
Is it safe to say they were kind of the ones out of the gate for the geek subscription boxes? Because I kind
They
of
really were.
That
Wasn't
kind
there
of set
one
the
before
tone
them
for
that's
everything.
not here anymore? I thought there was one.
No, after that was Nerd Block
Like
and
Nerd
Geek
Block.
Fuel. But Nerd Block, the first one, they sent you the dollar store figure that didn't sell from the original Star Trek movie 6 years later.
Yes, and I have that.
Did we tell him when to start the music?
Practice it again. Kiss everybody.